it does. We don't have, again, let me stress, we don't have control over what Google does. We don't have control over what Zoom does, what other cloud services do. But what we do have control of is our own documentation. So many times what we're going to need to do is to document. So if we have issues, we'll need to document. Okay. So, and it says the content of this meeting is being sent to a third party. I got it. Let me just see here. My MSN recording is still recording. I'm going to keep that going. And then I'm going to go to my Loom to make sure that we have issues. We're always having issues. I had issues in my other class. We were trying to set up some remote services. And guess what? What do you think? It worked for me, but didn't work for you. So now we know, Spencer, it works for you. We'll see if the other class it would work, because if those links don't work, it's not under my control. What do I have to do? I have to find other people in the university to see if they have to control, and then they have to go up and escalate the problem. We have to do it earlier than later on it. Okay. So we have that part. Anything else? Michelle, I don't see your face. It's kind of like I see your forehead, and that's it. So if you can adjust your camera, and also Josh, Max is the same thing. And Martin, hopefully he will get his camera to work. We want to be able to see everybody. I have their parts here. Okay, if people are getting in. Anything else I need to do? So let's get going. We have a lot to cover, and we'll see where we go from there. So welcome to another evening. Last week we talked about hardware, right? And I think now it's pretty clear, right, Jerry, that if I look at and ask you about primary storage and secondary storage, Jerry, you would say, what is the difference and who cares? Jericho? Do you hear me? Did you hear me? Did you hear the question? You on mic? Your mic now. You unmute yourself. Good, you're unmuted. Did you hear the question? What was the question? We don't hear him, do we? So you want to check about your speaker. We don't hear you as you're doing. So let's get him some help while he fixes his work then. So Jamie, did you understand my question? My question was, we talked about last week about primary storage, secondary storage. What's the difference? What do you need to know about the difference, and who cares? So what do you think, Jamie? Oliver?
Primary storage is storage like on the computer, and secondary storage is storage like on something like a hard drive.
Well, both of them could be on the computer. What does it mean on the computer? We want to be,
Well,
Audrey, what do you think? You want to take another stab? Jamie?
one of them is RAM, like that.
Okay, we
Sort
have,
of stuff.
which one is RAM? Primary or secondary?
Primary.
Primary, and what does that mean? Who cares? RAM means what? Random access memory. It could be also, ROM could be inside the computer, but what does it matter? What's the difference? And my hard drive could be external to my computer, or it could be based inside my computer that I don't even see my hard drive.
I'm not 100% on what the
Okay,
difference
so
is.
100%. So while you're doing that, look that up. What is the difference between primary storage and secondary storage, and why? And Audrey, what do you think? How can you help in this case of
I think
basically
that
succinctly?
primary is only stored temporarily and secondary is permanent?
Okay, well, more or less permanent, right? In the tent, that when the electricity goes off, it still remains in
Yeah.
secondary storage. And where does the program run? If I'm going to be executing, I'm going to bring up a PowerPoint slide today where it takes it from my secondary storage, right? Which could be on my hard drive, that PowerPoint file, and it will load, the operating system will load it into memory of my primary RAM storage or memory, right? So all applications, when I run an application, when I'm working with an application, it's in my memory. It's in my RAM. Does that help in that case, Jamie, that we think about it? Anytime we run, and you can put that in your notes, anytime you run a program, you execute a program, you're running it in RAM. Either the operating system or the software, Audrey, could save it periodically, like right every minute. And why is it saving it all the time? Because it knows that if the electricity goes down, what does it mean temporary? You lose what's in RAM. You got it? I think you understand it. And Jamie, you understand, but now what I want for our class is to be able to articulate it. And people throw around memory all the time different. And what I ask for each of you is to find out, right, Kayla, is how much RAM do you have? And what is your external storage? Did you have a chance to look at that, Kayla?
No, I wasn't able to find it for mine.
Okay, do you have a Mac, or what do you have? What kind of laptop
I,
do you have?
I have a Mac.
Mac. So one of the things you want to do about the Mac is you can even Google it, right? Or you can go to ChatGPT and ask for what? How do you find out how much internal memory and external storage do I have on a Mac? Do that now, Kayla.
Okay.
Everybody should do that. If you didn't find that, that should be a requirement, right? Roberto, how much memory do you have inside your computer and your storage?
I'm looking right now.
We're looking right now. So anytime I pick on, right, Kayla, right? Kayla knows that it's going to be everybody's responsibility, not just Kayla. And did you find it, Audria, from last time? So you want to find out, right? And Zachary, John, you want to find out too, that if you have it, it's easy to fall asleep in here. You look very comfy, Audria. I'm jealous a bit, right? But if I were with you, I'd be snoring by the time, somebody came around to me asking Dr. Rush, you'd have to wake me up somehow, call me or something. Okay. So that is one of your issues here, is how to find out. That's in the hardware. And why is that important? It's important that if I'm going to be doing some automated trading systems, Samuel, do you think I want to have more RAM or less RAM when we're dealing with high frequency trading? Did you answer me? I'm not hearing you if you are answering me. Okay, so we're having some audio issues with a couple of you. So of course it's going to be more. And the idea is, if Sam and I were in a business together and we say we're going to start off in the beginning and then we want to keep on growing, he may just say, well, let's get I could say let's get as much RAM as we can afford, and then later on either we'll upgrade our physical machines or we'll go to the cloud and get their cloud services and use other machines in the cloud via a browser. Do you hear me, Sam? Do you think he hears me, Audria? I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Okay, he can put something in this case, Spencer, you can send out a note there in the chat to see if we're having issues with Sam. Okay. So once we got that, I'm doing my recording. Let me share my screen. I have everybody here. So I'm going to share my screen. And let me go. I'm using Chrome. What I suggest you do for a lot of our activities, try using Chrome versus Safari, because Safari has given us some issues, but we'll see. Okay, this is the audit area. And let me go to the regular area. This is J. So let's go to what's due. Everybody with me? Luke, you hear me? We're doing what's due. You're manning the
And man in
chat.
the chat. No one's up there yet.
Okay, fine. Perfect. But I'm just, at least I can hear you. Okay, so we have here for February 7th, we have TGA2A, which is the software, and we have Wiley Plus is the adaptive assignment. And we'll go over kind of what the main issues of chapter 2 were. People gave me feedback and they liked the idea that I go over kind of the main points. On Monday, your screencasting exercises due individually and also as a group. You first do the individual assignment and then go and purport it to as a group. And that's available. Okay. Next, if I go to my audit area and I go to my groups, I see in my group 0A, the Zoom should have been completed already. Everyone who has attended already, the challenges and solutions, and then you see how the Zoom was done as an individual exercise with comments and the group exercises. And then the second part is the screencasting folder. You should have a screencasting folder with who attended your Zoom and also who was there in terms of what software you were using and the individual. Of course, we're adding the date, as we said before, the attached file that matches the native file format, and going through, everyone should be talking about the operating system, the file format, the storage options, whether it's storing it to your computer or the cloud, the cost. Also, if there's a free one and a paid one, what's the difference between the two, the pros and the cons. And then you'll meet as a group exercise after each of you have done your individual exercise, and each of you will be showing what they showed in the group recording. If that person wasn't in your group recording, you'll put that at that point only who was in your group recording and what were the issues of it. Okay, and then you can see here, not only in Spencer, she even went into what version of Mac OS that you have and what versions of Windows does it support. The file formats, in this case, in hers, it does many different file formats. So she listed all of them. And notice this one was really good because it recorded in the cloud and on the local one, the cost, the individual ones, and the pros. Excellent. And then the recordings, they broke it up into their recordings. But I like in the group recordings that you do it as a link, so I can just do it non-password. Any questions on this? Okay. So I'm going back to our regular one. This is what I want. My regular one here. This is my audit, and here's my regular one of what's due. So we see then, in this case, February 12th. It is available on the web links. Well, let me just do this first. On Wiley Plus. If you look at Wiley Plus, if I look at Wiley Plus and the resources, I know I'm at software now. If I'm at software, I can click on any of these and I'll see the book, right? I can see the book and it talks about what are software issues. Let me go to the top. What is software issues? And this graph right here is crucial that you understand. Some of you, it's review, others of you, if it's new. So if I go to my PowerPoint and documents, I also have under my PowerPoint 9th edition, I have my TG2. You should be able to download it. So this, at this point, let's review then, in this case, Audria, in this point, this file resides where? If I look here, it resides on Blackboard server. I click on it and it gets downloaded to my primary or secondary.
Primary.
It first gets downloaded to my, it's like we rehearsed it, right, Audra? It first gets downloaded to my downloads subdirectory, which is in my secondary storage, And then when I click on that and want to open it, so
Then
put this
that's
in your note.
primary.
Exactly. So think about it. Downloads directory is where? Secondary storage. Running the program, clicking on the program. I'm going to be using that PowerPoint. I'm going to edit that PowerPoint. I'm going to read that PowerPoint. Is in primary, it's in RAM. Just like Excel. I can use the Excel, right? I'll take that book wherever it is. I saved it somewhere. And then wherever I saved it, now I want to bring it into RAM. Perfect. So I have that PowerPoint, so I could look at that PowerPoint. And even in that PowerPoint, I could see here that basically we got to deal with what is an operating system. And we have to figure out what is the operating system, what is software, what is programming, what is system software. And if I look right here, it's the same idea. I'm looking at this system software. So I have here is the middle. This is like what we were talking about last time, hardware. And then application software, we all know what that is, right? Luke, those are all my apps that I ever use, from Excel to all my apps on my phone, right? This is all my apps. And each device that I ever have has a system software. It has that system software. Another term for it is operating systems. Whether I'm using an intelligent device, right? My car can have system software, right? My intelligent vacuum cleaner can have system software. My phone has system software. My laptop has system software. And what is its purpose? It's taking basically connecting between my hardware and my applications. That basically, Audrey, like we were saying, when you click on that file, you don't physically take it to RAM. The operating system basically is going to take it from your hard drive, let's say, and place it into RAM. Or when you save it, you're going to save as, you'll save it to the cloud. That's where your operating system software is. So that operating systems works as almost like a director. You cannot have a device without an operating system. And what's crucial here, you say, who cares? What's crucial is that sometimes based on an application software, not all application software can run on all system software types. You may have, for instance, in this case, it's going to be the same thing, Kayla, that I'm going to be asking you. is what type of operating system? What do you have, Kayla? What computer do you have? You have a Mac?
Yeah, I have a Mac.
So just like on your Mac, you have to find out what is the RAM and what is the hard disk space. Did you find out, by the way? Yeah.
Yeah,
What did you find?
yeah. Well, I have I think it's like 260 of hard drive or hard
260
disk, like
what? 260.
gigabytes.
Okay.
And then 8 GB like memory, which I think
Okay.
is the RAM.
Okay. And what do you have, Luke?
I have 1.1 terabytes.
Okay. 1 terabytes of what? RAM or secondary storage?
I have 8 GB of RAM.
Okay. 8 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of hard drive. Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a lot more than Kayla does on this. Another question become okay. Great. And in this case, we already have it started. So in this case, Arnold David, how much do you have? And if you don't know, that's what you're supposed to be doing. Okay, Aiden, what do you have?
I think I have about 2 TB.
About you think or you know? We
I can
all
double
been born
check. I
with
can
it.
double
We don't
check
make
really
up.
quickly.
You want to look at it. You don't want to make up stories. We
Let
all
me
can make
double
up
check.
stories, right? There's not. You remember how they talk about all those AI, those chatbots? They say that it's hallucinating. I don't think it's hallucinating. I think we're going to call it fabrication. I don't want you to fabricate. Give the facts. And if we don't know, there's no. In this case, there's no problem of not knowing, right, Jonah? What it is you have to find out. Nobody knows this, and a lot of times you didn't even care how much RAM you had. It worked. That was the main thing what you wanted to do. So you have to find out. So Jonah, you have to find out is how much RAM you have and how much external storage you do. Okay. And what about you, Joseph?
I have about 16 gigabytes of RAM and then a terabyte of total storage.
Okay. So you have more than the other two. So what's the advantage of using your machine versus, let's say, Kayla? Kayla has 8, she told me. Luke has 8, and you have 16. And the question for an exam could be, what's the difference and whose computer should we use and why? In order to do some financial technology software.
Are you asking me, Professor?
I am.
Yes, probably my computer since it processes faster and has
Not
more
only
storage.
that, and not only it processes more, but it can accept more data to process. And it may not, some software may not even run on 8 gig. It'll say, hey, I need more than that to run financial software. That's why you need to know. And what's our alternative? And let's say we need 32 gig. What should we do?
Get a better computer?
One is we can upgrade maybe to another computer. That's one thing. We maybe can go to somebody's parents and say, I need a more RAM. What else can we do? We can go on campus and see if there's any computers that have more, right?
Right.
Or there's something called cloud services that sometimes, for instance, Microsoft or Amazon or Google will provide us an opportunity via a browser to use their computers. And we may say, we need a computer and we only need it for a month because that's all, maybe we're going to do this exercise, our simulations. We need it for a month or 2 months and we need 32 gigs. So that's in our hardware, and we need 5 terabytes of data, hard drive. So we can use what they call cloud services. Have you ever heard about the cloud? Joseph?
Yes, I have heard about the cloud.
Yeah, well, they're giving that cloud. We're always using the cloud, right? You're always saving stuff to the cloud, of course, right? You're using software via the cloud. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Okay.
So in this case, we may be doing it. So we have software issues and we have something called open source software that you need to know what it is. So Carla, you have any idea what open source software is? And when I asked you, Carla, and I haven't gotten to Jeremy or Liam yet, what should they be doing at the same time, Carla? Looking up what does it mean by open source software, and who cares, right, Iris? You should all be doing it together, because number one, you're up to date. Number two, it's that what you'll be able to even help. When I said, is there somebody to help Carla, you'll be able to raise your hand and say, I have an idea, or I read it and I'm not sure what it means. So when you, Iris, did you look up open source software?
Yeah.
Okay, and what does it say?
It says software that's distributed with the source code, making it available.
Okay, so we got to figure out what it says. So we know that something open source software is, it said what kind of code? Software that's distributed with what?
Source code.
Source code. So we got to figure out what is source code. So in Jeremy, when we have to figure out what source code is, if we don't know what source code is, then we got to figure out, right? Iris, the same thing. We got to figure out, what does it mean, source code? Do you have any clue, Iris? And if you don't, what do? You look it up.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's the
looking
beauty,
it up.
because guess what? After you leave me in the class, do you think there's ever going to be stuff that you don't understand, or it's going to be new concepts? Of course there is. And we're going to be able, you can have an intelligent conversation with somebody and say, well, I can research it, right? I can look at it, and then I know I can ask, whether it is, ask any bots or anything else that can help me with it. I have no problems with the what we'll end up having, Iris, is I foresee our work in the future. You'll be always working with an assistant. And that intelligence isn't that be great? You'll have it. And those of you that don't want to work with an assistant maybe not have jobs. It's basically, how do I work effectively with it? So what did you find out, Iris?
It just says that source code is like a text, like programming for the computer.
Right, it's the instructions to the computer. So put in there, have you ever heard about programming code? Languages like Python and others, it's just instructions to the computer that make up algorithms to tell you instructions on what the computer should do, what task should it do. What's the difference is, a lot of times there's open source software that is open and available to see by a programmer and user. Now, sometimes if you're not a programmer, and can I assume, Iris, that you don't have a lot of, is that a true statement, that you don't have a lot of programming background?
Yeah.
In that case, having open source isn't as much available, important to you, because you say, I don't know what to do with it had I seen it. But what is important is that usually open source software is free. And then if it were for a company, your company, you say, if we had programmers and other people could improve upon it, maybe that's going to be good. So it may not be particularly to you, but you have the idea. And there's something called proprietary software that is closed. It means that no one except the given appreciation cannot see or manipulate or change the code. Usually companies like Apple, Microsoft wants to sell their software. In order to sell their software, they like to keep it proprietary. Now there's a trend now to have a lot of things open source, and even in open source, people make money on it because they provide technical support. So we talked about the operating system, and what we need to know on the operating system is that operating systems are on any device. So what kind of phone, Ava, what kind of phone do you have? You have an iPhone, Ava?
Yeah, I have an iPhone.
And what operating, does it have an operating system? Of course it does. What operating system does it have? Have you ever heard of iOS?
Yeah,
That's, what do you think the OS stands for, Ava?
operating system.
Wow. It stands for operating system. That is by Apple, right? Has their phones have their own operating system. And why is that important? And other mobile devices have Android. So, and Liam, have you ever heard of Android?
Yes, I have.
Right. So Android has others. So who cares whether your phone is iOS or Android? Somebody said to you, I have a, let's say I say to you, Liam, I have an Android phone, and you said, well, do you have an iPhone, Liam?
I do have an iPhone.
So you have an iPhone. So you say, what does it matter? And you say, Dr. Rush, and let's say, just for instance, I say, I have an Android phone. So who cares? I'm your employee.
You're my employee. Well,
Right.
I think that it probably is up to the user's preferences, which one they
Yeah, but
find.
let's say, but what is important, and what do you need to know, and why is it going to be important? That's depending software runs on different operating systems. There's some software that only runs on iOS, and if your company, Liam, is using that software, you're going to have to tell me, you know what, Dr. Rush, if you want to work for us, you need to get an iPhone, because we're only running on iOS, this software. But it may be some software first will start running, if it's new, start running on iOS because it's so popular in the United States, but later on will run on Android, or vice versa. A lot of times in other countries, Android's more popular than iOS. You got it, Liam? So the idea for an operating system of who cares, you care because it depends on the software.
All right.
Okay, so that's the reason. And it's the same thing with what kind of computer are you using right now?
A MacBook.
MacBook. What kind of so what you have to find out, just like you had
Mac
to find
OS
out.
13.
Okay, Mac OS 13. And let's say I'm using Windows. Let's say I'm using Windows 10. I come working for you, Liam, or you come working for me. And we have to ask the same question. Is there any software, Liam, that we're going to be using that I'm going to require you to use, or we're both going to use, or some people in our company going to need to use based on operating system?
It could make Windows, Office applications, more difficult to use if they're not all on the same operating system, but not
It could.
impossible.
They're different versions. So, for instance, have you heard of Excel? Who makes Excel? Microsoft makes Excel. Who makes Windows? Who manufactures Windows?
Microsoft.
Microsoft. Microsoft sells both of those products. They make it so they can get more revenues, right? We're in business, right? They're in here to make a buck, more than a buck, to be profitable, right? To give to their shareholders. They're publicly traded. So they want to sell their applications and they want to sell their operating system. So they make two versions. In the beginning, they only made one version of Excel, and that was for Windows. And if you had Mac, tough luck, go get Windows machine or get Windows running on your Mac or something. Later on, they said, you know, there's such a marketplace, right? So many people have Mac. Why should we lose out? They'll go to Google. They'll go to a competitor, right? Google started saying, hey, you know, I'll run on a Mac. So basically, they said, what? I'll make a version for Mac, but it's different. And they basically make a better version in the beginning for what? Their own computers, because they want to sell more. So they want to do that. So you can do that. So I have then, all of you should then be aware that when I'm asking you, and this can be part of the your test as well, is when I'm asking, what OS do you have on your laptop? And basically, all these OS are proprietary for Mac OS or Windows. And Linux. Linux, Linux, is another operating system. So in this case, Carla, Linux is another operating system. The difference between Linux is it's what? It's open source. So if I think about open source, Carla, it means what? That the code's going to be available and that usually it's free or little cost. Why do I want to use it? Sometimes if I'm doing scientific operations, sometimes I'd rather use Linux. For instance, our marine science is almost standardized on a lot of their projects on Linux because they need complicated calculations for all the oceanography studies that they do. So Mac OS, Windows, and Linux. And then we got to figure out, how about if I have a version of software that I want to do, different version. So Ryan, what major are you?
Finance.
Finance. I want to use a finance program in a couple of weeks that will look at creating strategies for trading. I want to use it so we can use a lot of data. And I want to be able that it can predict where the prices of stocks will go the next period or the next day. You got it, Ryan? For us to be familiar with that, I have to choose a software program. One software program that I've run in the past uses, they have one version that's on the web that you don't need to worry about what operating system it is, but it isn't as good as doing simulation. So they have another version that you can download, and it says it needs the Windows operating system. And I have a dilemma, Ryan. Most of my students have Mac. So I have to figure out how to accommodate that. I got the university to download the software and put it in the PC labs, in the computer, in the business school on the second floor. So every computer in the second floor in the lab has installed this program called NinjaTrader, running Windows. So if students want to do the homework, Ryan, one solution is go to the lab. They have certain labs. Sometimes those labs are occupied with classes. It's not 24/7. I don't know when they open, when they close. So I have one solution, but it's not a perfect solution for me because, Ryan, what do you have? You have a Mac?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do if you want to do your homework at 11 o'clock on Sunday and they're not open? So what can I do?
Honestly, I don't know.
I don't know. So I was thinking too. So you remember I talked about cloud services? That in cloud services, Microsoft or Amazon or Google has services where via a browser, somebody could gain access to a computer and gain access to software. So I could tell maybe Microsoft, if we were in business together doing some trading, I could say to Microsoft, I need some computers. I need with 32 gig of RAM, and I need at least 2 terabytes of hard drive. I can get that from Microsoft or Amazon or Google. Did you know that I can get that? And it's almost like renting it by the time period. And as we grow later on, it may be I need 128 RAM. And I don't have to say, Brian, we got a budget. We need to now, you have to go and buy new computers all the time. We can grow, and then it may be, Liam, it may be an idea that I say, you know what? It's 2 months and this isn't working. We're getting out of that business. What am I going to do with all that hardware? So what we can do is we can remotely gain access. Yes. What's the question?
Oh, no, I didn't have a question. I thought you were
Okay, so Liam, so you
addressing me.
understand? So in
I
that
do.
case, what we would do is we can do it. So what I have is when I look at it, I need a way in which this is why operating systems are so important. Do you understand that, Liam? Is depending on why I care what operating system I have access to, it depends on what software do I want to use. So in this case, you all know what application software, another word for application can be like apps, right? You've all heard about apps. That's application software. It's not the operating system, but these application software sometimes depend on what operating systems I have. And you all know all the different applications that I can use. Now more and more, it's going to even be more AI is going to be involved in it. When I have AI, guess what? I need the computers to be having not only more RAM, not only having more hard drive capabilities, but they also need to have more CPUs and what they call GPUs, graphical processor units, to be able to do trillions of data points. So now these server farms like Microsoft and Amazon, they're creating, they need cash to create more and more of these computers, to make them faster, make them more robust, and more. Stop. Let me stop sharing. Is that clear? So Andrea, so we got operating system, and for next time, what do we need to know is what operating system we have in our own computer. And then we have to solve the problem. If I need a Windows operating system and I don't have access to it, how can I gain access to it? So what we're going to be doing in the future, one of the things is we'll be talking about algorithmic trading, an algorithm. And what is an algorithm? An algorithm, think about it as a series of steps to do a task. So in this case, if I asked, in this case, Julia, do you like cooking? You like to cook? Do you cook with on kind of from the spur of your moment, or you like recipes? You like to look at recipes?
Usually a recipe.
Okay, so if you think about the recipes, right? What do? You have a number of ingredients, right? And you follow a number of steps. That's the same thing with programming with algorithms. I have some tasks, I have some instructions, and I follow those instructions. Now what the tendency is going to be, and that's what we call source code. Just like those instructions in your recipe book, right? Or wherever it is, those set of steps, Julia, in the recipe book, there are going to be a set of steps that are written in a computer language. What's happening now is with the advent of more and more AI and the generative AI, is the generation of code is going to be done by the artificial intelligent agent. And sometimes they call it no code, less code. So even experienced programmers, you say, well, they wouldn't need it, but it saves them time. And non-experienced programmers then can give instructions, not in the programming language, Julia, but we say, okay, this is what our goal is for our trading strategy, and let the system create the code for us. That's what we're going to be doing in this class. I don't expect that this class be heavy programmers, but what we'll do is we'll see what is all that algo trading about, where's the future going to go in terms of predicting, and what your role, Julia, would sometimes be is to follow it and see where it's going off kilter. And it's easy in terms of trading, because what's off kilter mean? What? I'm losing money. Do I want to lose money? No, that's not the objective. Is keep me at least not losing money. You know, and it's also in the computer doing that. It does it a lot quicker. So it's going to lose my money. And if it's a bad algorithm, it's going to lose it quicker than I could do on my own, right? So I'm going to really lose out. So I'm going to have to create it, that we're going to have to create some stops here and say, hey, get me out. You know, all of a sudden there's, you know, war in Iran. Who knows what's happening? You know, crazy stuff happens in the world. And you say, this was not what we were planning. Let's go out. And now over 90% it's being done by the computer. You'll see that those highs and those lows are very quickly, because all of them are kind of following similar kind of algorithms. And that's what we'll look at, and we can use it for a number of other opportunities, but this is a great opportunity for us to do slowly. And guess what? We're not going to use our money, we're going to simulate it. So that's the beauty too. We don't have to be scared. You know, and one time I was in a class in the summer where I had a number of Saudi students, and at that time the government was paying for them to you know, I guess not to do Arab Spring or something. And they had some funds there, and we had the head of one of these trading systems come in. I just said, please don't take my students and, you know, have them trade with their accountants, because you know, they'll lose the money and blame it on me. So I want to make sure that when we're doing all of this, we are doing it simulation-wise. Julia, we're not going to touch any money. It's going to be, and then maybe we'll have a contest to see what group can create strategies that will give us the most money. And then those that haven't done well, you can look at the other group and say, how are you doing it? And it may have been last week they did well, but you know, in 2 weeks ahead, they're not doing so well. So this is what we're going to be looking at. And so the issue is, let me go to this. Let me minimize this. So what I need, just so you know, I'm going to be using a program called NinjaTrader. You see that, ninjatrader.com. This is a brokerage house, and it also has software. You don't have to worry about it, but we're not going to even have to worry about opening accounts right now, and logging in. They have a browser version, but the browser version is not as good as the on-premise version. And notice here on platforms, this is what we, you know, they have something as a mobile app, they have something as charting, but I'm going to use some kind of simulation here that I want to use. So this is my way that I wanted to work it. When I was asking somebody in the class, what am I going to do? You all don't have Windows, and I want to give you another opportunity to get there. I want to use a cloud service. So I went to IT, and IT basically accommodated me and said, for my students, they will set up something called Azure, which is Microsoft's version of remote desktop, and they will install in Microsoft's servers. Do you understand that, Luke? They'll take NinjaTrader. Not only did IT install it in the lab, they work with Microsoft, and they said, we'll install it on a remote server using it. So what I need you guys to do is this. Go to your regular, not your audit area, your regular area. And under your regular area, you have something called web links. So do you see web links? Samuel, do you see web links?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. So under the web links, what I'd like you to do is, I'm going to go in another window, but I'd like you basically to click on it. And it says for me, remote desktop, and I get something here called MHBS Azure VDI, which is Miami Herbert Business School, Azure, which is cloud services, which is the virtual desktop interface. And notice here it says remote desktop on my tab. I want everybody to get to this point and see what you have. And in my other class, I got errors for my students. It worked great for me, but didn't for you. So Samuel, click on that link for me and tell me what you get.
It pulls up for me.
It pulls up.
I'm on the same screen as you.
Do you have the same screen that I do?
Correct.
Good. And then if you click on this part that says VDI right here, click on that. And I have access local resources, allow the remote computer. Where is it? I don't even know where it is, Samuel. But in accounting's terms, this is what you could do. Later on, you may be auditing remote services, right? To access the following resources on my computer, meaning I can access this using my own computer while running the software somewhere else. Do you understand that concept, Samuel? That the clipboard file transfer, if I was attached to a printer, I could use that on my computer, but I'm accessing the programs on another remote computer. Do you have that, Samuel?
Yes, ma'am. I have the same
Good.
page.
So I click everything and I say allow. And it says connecting and launching student VDI. So the business school created taking your user ID, right, your credentials, and entering them. Mine is s.rushanik, right, at miami.edu with my password. So try to enter it and see if you can get in.
I was able to get in.
Pardon?
I was able to get in.
Great. So at least something worked. In my last class, nobody got in except for my TA.
Mine didn't work.
Okay. And then that's what we're going to have to do is figure out whose didn't work.
I'm in.
Oh, great. So basically, you see right here, this looks like what then, Samuel? It looks like somebody else's computer, like you were in the lab using Windows. But are you in the lab? No, you're in some other source. Do you think it's going to be more latency? I bet it will, because we have to go through the internet, and who knows how much RAM they have. Who knows? You know, they gave me minimum. I didn't even fight for, I want more memory. You know what I mean? I have to be, you know, they know me as a pain. So it's like she wants more and more. So I have to say, hey, you know, I want them to, I have to learn how to work with others. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? So they always say, you know, the Russianic problem, you know, she wants more. Okay, because most people don't even want to bother with this, you know, and most, they want to read from the book, teach from the book, and not even have to have, you know, when I was asking some other finance professors, I said, why don't you do something with me? They said, I don't want to hassle with software, this, things don't work. I rather, you know, write on the board and do the test, and that's it, easy. Somehow, I guess I'm a glutton for punishment or something. So you see here where it says, look at this, you'll get excited about it. It says Ninja Trader 8. Maybe you won't get that excited over it, but it says Ninja Trader 8, and it says in parentheses 64-bit. You see that, Samuel? And then right underneath it, it says Ninja Trader 8. That means it's 32-bit. So what do you think is going to be more powerful, 32-bit or 64-bit? to bring in more of the data, and they'll tell you that they prefer you to use 64-bit because what? It's more powerful. You'll be able to use more data together in one part. But for right now, I want to figure out who doesn't get to this point. I'm not even talking about the software. We'll learn how to use the software, but we need to have something there. So what I'm thinking, let me stop sharing. So what I'm thinking, Spencer, is maybe to have a section with something in the audit area, maybe, that people can, as a group or something, say, you know, NinjaTrader worked okay and not, or something. What do you suggest we do, Spencer?
I would do the same thing that we did for the Zoom when it said that all the links were working and it could live stream to YouTube.
Okay, so where should we put that?
Probably
Maybe
the same.
maybe put that under after the screen casting, just put a thing of, we'll call it, maybe just set it up where you call it that remote access link. And then everybody will put in, and then when you get a problem, maybe even take a screenshot of it working, and then especially take a screenshot of when it's not working. Because in my last class, I got no one to have it work. And in this class, it seemed, who didn't get it to work? Raise your hand. Okay, Roberto and Arnold, are you using Safari? Try another browser like Chrome or something.
What would our
Steps.
password be?
What? It's your regular credentials, the same ones that you use to get into anything in UM.
What was the link again?
It's in the first link under web links. Because if we can't do this, we can't, you see this, why this is important, Luke? Before we even get into it, we can't even do the assignment.
Because
You know what?
certain people can right now.
What?
Only certain people can right now.
Right. So we want to get that. I'm teaching you kind of like the process is you almost have to do early problems, because guess what? What I know is all this stuff always causes problems. And what worked yesterday doesn't mean it worked today. But we got to fix. Yes.
For the local resources, do I leave all three selected?
Yeah, leave everything. I leave everything. That's a good sign already, Roberto. That's
Mine
good.
worked.
That's all we need. So help each other, right? And it may be working it out, but you have to put in your right credentials, right, Arnold? You have to put in and they're making it through credentialed. So they're only allowing, they're only allowing my people that are registered my classes, they've set this up. You understand that, Luke? Because Azure charges for, what did I say? Kind of like per session, per amount. So they were negotiating, they were telling me, you know, we did you a favor one time, maybe, you know, we should start charging you. And I said, it's not fair to the students, they pay a lot. What should we be charging? You guys should give a service, and not that many, you know, we can see how it works. And then we can see sometimes, you know, Luke, during the session, sometimes it'll be better you say, hey, meet me in the lab and we'll do our homework, because it may be just easier. But when we're online, isn't it a lot easier? Everybody has access to the browser. When I show
much more convenient.
When I'm showing you something, don't you want to do it at the same time I'm doing it? And then you tell me, Luke, you tell me, hey, this is where people are getting stuck. We're not having these issues, you know?
Definitely. So much easier.
Rather than viewing my screen and then having to review it again, you'll probably have to, it's good to do that again. But, and then you can do it at 11 o'clock. And then what's nice is you can even be on a Zoom with your group and show them what you've done. And like somebody in your group knows how to do it and somebody got stuck or whatever, you can show it in Zoom. Or when you all get stuck, what do? Record it highlight it and say,
and put it in the audit. So
put in the audience, and this is and put a note, this is where we got stuck. Or what you'll be doing is we'll do it and then we say, hey, we got to change strategies. We have it first. Let's even deal with the mechanical stuff later on. What the fun stuff is trying to improve the strategies. I mean, that's another issue of trying to actually forecast what's going to happen tomorrow. To be able to look at what happened yesterday or last year, it doesn't take any much brains, right? I can tell you, hey, the market went up really, those 7 stocks really did well. The question is, will they do those 7 stocks do well next year, or today? Or even what are people doing as algo traders? Or what are we going to do? What is automated trading? How do you automate anything? And then where do you instill in their intelligence? Where's intelligence put in there? Where it's going to learn and it's going to try to improve. A regular program will just run each time the same idea. If I run Excel, if I put in a faulty formula, it will keep on giving me the wrong answer each time. But in this case, if I add machine learning, what's the idea of learning? That we don't make the same mistake each time. We get better. Okay, so who now doesn't have it working? Anyone? You can even raise your hand or put it in. So it seems like in this group, Spencer, and put it in the chat if it's not working. So Spencer, it seems like then we can go for the next step and I can start talking about algorithms. I can talk about algorithmic trading. What are strategies? And then we can do some fun stuff and we can do some exercises and see what does it mean by source code. So when you think to yourself, just I don't even know what source code is, we'll look at source code and see in NinjaTrade, does it show us source code? Can we change strategies just by looking at the source code, changing 1 or 2 words? And even if you don't want to do it ever, you have an idea what other people are doing. And you say, hey, that's not for me, but what I can do is I can supervise a group of people, let them do it. And can they do it anywhere in the world? Of course they can. Just have to worry about the time zone, right? And then that's the idea. Then, Luke, what you can do is if you have a team and you're not the program, you can start getting ideas of where they're going to document their issues. How do you manage these people? Not easy. Hybrid. How do you get them motivated? Maybe by giving them commissions. We okay? So let's take attendance. Stay with me if you have questions. It's good that the second class, somehow, maybe the first class, they forgot to put it in. That I have a feeling, I gave them each section and I'm trying to figure out why it did work. And maybe they only looked at one tab. They didn't look at another tab. But we'll see what it is. Okay, great. So thanks everybody for helping me. Let me share and let's do attendance. Now notice, we're all here, right, Samuel? What do I have to do? Is this my computer? No, this is the remote computer. So notice if I put my cursor right on that Windows flag, you see, they put in Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, Excel. When we're doing NinjaTrader, we'll go to Excel. We'll have Excel, but we'll have what? The Windows version. And later on, because we have the local, you remember the local resources, we could save it to our drive. We could save it to our OneDrive. We could email it to ourselves. We could do a lot of different things. So now what I want to do is, and you can do this too, after a while, it disconnects, but you see when I put my cursor there, you see where it says disconnect? End your connection to this remote computer. I just want you to even understand the terminology. It's going to talk in the book about remote computers and it goes on top of your head. Unless you try it out, it's meaningless. So I'm going to disconnect and you can too. And I'm back to this link. So it's getting me to a remote computer. Excellent. I'm going to check in. And you can, is this working? 6304? Yes? Does it work?
It's not popping up for me. I don't know if that.
Okay,
I
hold
found-
on.
I don't see it either.
Okay, let me do it again. Start checking. See, we always have issues. That's why we have to give each other feedback. It worked for me. Why? I'm have a different role. 7499. Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working.
Perfect. You understand
you.
how we got to work it together?
Yeah,
I need your help just as much as you need mine. Probably I need your help more than you need mine.
have a great day, Mrs. Rush. Or Dr. Rush, sorry.
It's all right. Whatever you call me, I'm here.
Have a good
Okay.
one.
Thank you, Luke, for being so cooperative and helping moderate. Thank you,
course.
Spencer, for doing it, and everyone else that helped me on it.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kayla.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. 749. Zachary, did you, we need to talk, right? Okay, and Michelle, let me just, did you get the,
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just I'm having a trouble with the attendance.
what's the problem? You're
It's
not
like,
getting it in?
oh wait,
That's-
I think it just worked. Hold on.
Okay,
Yeah, it worked. Okay, thank you so much.
perfect. I'm ending attendance.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to talk to you
Yeah,
about
I
the,
know. Let me
yeah.
just shut down everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's the need to know, right? Remember?
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we want to keep in touch with, right? Okay. So let me stop sharing. And let me stop all my recordings. Nobody